Welcome to the Miracles and Grace podcast. I'm your host, Grace Mayernick, and today we have an extremely special guest, my dad, Mike Mayernick. Thanks, Dad, for coming on the podcast.
It's my pleasure.
I feel like we've talked about doing this for a while, so I'm glad we're finally doing it. I feel like most people who know much about me or much about our family either know you or know parts of our story, especially recently. But do you just want to introduce yourself and give background on, I think it would be cool just to explain like how you grew up or where you grew up, anything you want to share about you?
Sure. Better known as Grace's dad. I'm one of the few unicorns who grew up in Nashville my whole life. That's what they call us now, unicorns. I've lived on every side of Nashville, north, south, east, and west. Was born in actually Goodlettsville, lived in Hendersonville, Donaldson, Antioch, Kingston Springs, and Brentwood.
Yeah.
So I've kind of made the circle around Nashville.
Never thought about that.
Yeah.
And
truly.
now I am a second generation unicorn. People always say that when they ask where you're from and you say I'm from here, they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, second generation.
I hope you stay a unicorn. I hope you stay here.
Yeah,
Is that the plan?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Good.
I mean, we did just buy land right next to you,
right.
so
Yep.
the plan's to
Odds
be here
are.
for the long haul.
I hope we have a bunch of unicorns. I have 8 children.
Yep.
Married to Suzanne. Youngest is 17, oldest is 30, and everywhere in between.
Yep. And do you want to talk a little bit about what you've done professionally throughout your life?
So I went to Belmont and played basketball there, got a finance degree, didn't know what I wanted to do. Got recruited into the financial services industry. And I was single, and I thought this sounds pretty fun and interesting. I've always loved math, and I've loved working with people.
He got a 36 on the math section of his ACT.
Yeah.
That's when you know you're gifted.
Twice.
Yeah. And none of the rest of us did.
My mom used to tell me that on the way to school, I would make her ask me math problems. Yeah.
That's a different breed.
It's kind of weird. So right out of college, before I graduated, I started in the financial services world and got my certified financial planner designation about 5 years later. And it's really all I've ever known. I've spent 35 years doing that. And the names have changed, and it was financial advisor, financial planner, wealth management advisor, private wealth advisor. I'm a partner in Capital Stewardship Partners, and we have 8 partners. And it's been quite a ride.
Something that I just want to highlight is I feel like in that industry, and something that I've been really proud of you for and loved watching you do, is I feel like in your industry, it's all focused on building wealth for yourself. How can I grow my money? How can I invest in things that are going to grow and make more and more and more? And something that I think that I've seen you do that I think has set you apart and like probably made people trust you and want to work with you and just see your character is that you've built a business around helping people see how they can use their money to be generous and give back. And you have such a great spirit of generosity, and I feel like that's something you've passed down to all of us and just modeled to us, not just in the way that you do like your personal life, but in your business. And I think a lot of people are like, how do you afford like building a life for 8 kids, and especially in Williamson County? And I don't believe in a prosperity gospel where it's like you do good or you tithe or you're generous and you get rewarded financially, but I do believe that God rewards generosity and a generous heart. And I just see the way that you've been able to provide for our family. And I feel like that's God blessing your heart for generosity and building that into your business.
Yeah, about probably 15 or 20 years ago, I read a book called Halftime. And it was written by a guy who kind of got to the midpoint of his life and had found success. And it was kind of like the path from, or the journey from success to significance. this is before we adopted kids and before like that calling took us down a totally different road. But I do remember having lunch with a guy named Ron Blue one day, who is a Christian financial um, counselor. I think probably the best one out there. And we just talked about what does it look like to really have your business and your mission also as a ministry. And I remember thinking, okay, I really think I want to help people learn how to live with their hands open, because we do spend so much time helping people accumulate wealth, and then ultimately you go, what for?
Yeah.
What's the purpose? And it all can be good, but money's mentioned a lot in the Bible. And some people think money's evil. It's the love of money that gets us, and we're all susceptible to that. Like we're
Yeah.
all human. So I really set out thinking, how can I have a kingdom impact in my job? And I wanted to help people learn how to give money away. And that's not the lead. That's not what we lead with, but it's all about stewardship, because that's what we are.
Yeah.
On the earth, we just steward the resources that we have. And I've asked myself that same question: how am I going to afford 8 kids? I didn't know I was going to have 8 kids. My plan was probably 3. And yes, the prosperity gospel is not good, but God, He's just provided in a way. And I had all the consultants telling me, you don't want to help people give money away because you get paid by managing their money, and if they give it away, you're not managing it, and that math doesn't make sense. It really doesn't if you look at it from a purely business perspective. But it's been amazing to go just watch and see how our business has succeeded and grown, and with that stewardship mindset in mind. Our company's called Capital Stewardship Partners.
Yeah. I was going to say that. Do you feel like I've never thought about or never asked you this before, but you're just talking about how that mentor taught you to live open-handed with your money, and that's how you wanted to build your business? Do you feel like that influenced how you ended up living open-handed in life? Like, because obviously you and Mom have made a lot of decisions that are not typical, and it's led our family to look really different in a lot of ways physically.
Yeah.
But I'm curious if that's like where that willingness to be open-handed started. Was there, if it came from somewhere else?
No, I think it came from somewhere else. I think I am a believer that to whom much is given, much is required. And I've been extremely blessed throughout my life with a lot of gifts. We were not rich growing up, so I didn't grow up with a lot of money. But I think early on, I just took that part of the Bible and the gospel, and it's not just about money. It's kind of it's not about me
Yeah.
message, and that we have a bigger purpose than ourselves. And I did see what it was like. People who don't live open-handed are just generally not as happy as those who live like this. So there is a little bit of a selfish motive in giving. It's like, wow, there's a reward that you get to see and experience, because it's a constant reminder that that it's not ours.
Yeah.
We're
I
stewards.
think that's what you experience is like a holy thing. Like that's a holy joy
It is.
that you get from giving. So you're getting something out of it, but it's pure. Like that's something from God. That's a joy that God gives you,
Yeah, and every decision to give or keep, it kind of gets down to a spiritual decision.
Yeah.
And those decisions, like all the time, we have to make them.
Yeah.
Like every day, financially, we make choices of, lifestyle and debt and giving and spending and saving. And it probably should be a struggle for everybody.
Yeah.
Throughout their life.
Yeah.
Because usually if you quit that struggle, or you give up on it, you give up in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it ends up being more about you, which does not lead to happiness.
Yeah.
I did read a book years ago. It's called the Prayer of Jabez. You ever heard of that one?
Uh,
And the prayer of Jabez was a simple prayer in the Old Testament, and he was asking God to enlarge his territory. And I remember reading that, going, "Oh, this makes sense." Like I remember praying that prayer, not thinking enlarge my territory financially, but just for the kingdom, and probably didn't even think a lot of it at the time. But now that I look back, I go, "Wow, he really has enlarged my territory." I mean,
mm,
even just with 8 children, like
yeah.
that's been such a huge blessing.
Yeah. We were talking about, a lot of people have probably heard this quote, but you were saying there were a lot of times that I was like, I don't know how I was gonna fund 8 kids either. And I just love the quote that God funds what he favors, because when you think about, like, God's heart is for families, it's for kids, it's specifically for adoption and orphans and widows. And um I have so many times, as I'm reflecting, gone back to that, like, for even with growing our own family, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, in my head, I think I would like to have more than three. And then sometimes the financial thing stresses me out. And I'm like, but if God's if I feel called, if you will, or like a peace about growing our family, God's gonna take care of us, you know? And I feel a peace in that. But I just look at the way that y'all have lived your life, and you've lived doing things and pursuing things that God favors. So of course he funded it and he took care of you
Yeah.
and took care of us.
As a financial planner, I'm a planner anyway. I like to plan, but that's one lesson I've learned over the years is like, my plans. There's my plans and there's God's plans, and mine really don't count.
Yeah.
And I still try to plan everything. I still
Yeah.
want to plan it all out. And then I look back now at this stage and I go, wow, God's plans are really good, and they didn't at all line up with what I thought my plans were.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's good. Like
Yeah.
like you said, I remember thinking I would like to be financially independent by the time I'm 50 if I wanted to do something else or retire, and those plans got wrecked, and I'm glad that they did, because God had so much more.
Yeah.
But he's continued to provide.
Yeah. Well, there's so many things I want to talk about. There's so many things. Um, I want to talk about, obviously, like, the season that we're in. And I think a lot of people just look at our family and they're like, how are you coping with your reality right now? And I have been so proud of and just like inspired by the way that you have, from the beginning, always. Well, one thing I want to say, I feel like I told my dad this, we were at the lake. I don't know if you remember this, but um, I feel like for a long time, anytime I felt sad or anything about your diagnosis, I would just wait and like hold it in and let Davy see it. And then we were at the lake because I didn't want, anytime we were to be together, you feel like I'm sad. But we were at the lake and you said something about, I just love how Annabelle, like, anytime she's sad, she just shows it and it makes me feel loved. And I remember I sat there and I just started sobbing. I was like, that makes you feel loved? I've been holding this in to not make you sad for like months. And so now when I feel these things, I'm trying to let them come more freely. But I want this to be a hopeful podcast, even in the midst of what we're in. Like, I don't want this to just be
Yeah.
a sad podcast, because we have hope. And I want to talk about that because I think a lot of people, we've talked about this before, but ALS is just different. It's not like cancer. I don't know of any disease that's like it, where,
Right.
and so, and yet I do feel like we just have so many joy-filled moments and we have so much fun. And I would love for you to talk about what it has been like, just where you found hope in this season, and just the ways that you've felt the Lord show up for you, maybe in ways that you didn't expect or in ways that you think might encourage people.
Well, your tears speak volumes to me. I think sometimes we're so trained and programmed not to show our feelings, or sometimes even to feel things.
Yeah.
And it's really weird with this disease. People ask me a lot, do you want to talk about it or not? Because I don't want to talk about it if you want to talk about it. And do I want to talk about it to the point that I dwell on it all the time? No.
Yeah.
But what's happening is happening, and it's real, and I have to face it, and I have to feel it.
Yeah.
And I would be afraid if I tried not to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always comforting to have other people feel it with you.
For sure.
You
I
know?
actually, me and Davey were just talking about this because I feel like my tendency in life is to, and I think probably everybody's tendency to some extent is this, but to like compartmentalize,
Mm-hmm.
where, like, we were talking about his mom passing, and I was telling him, when I think about his mom passing, it was so traumatic and it makes me so sad that I just try not to think about it. And so I was telling him, like, but I don't think that's healthy.
Right.
And I don't want to never think about his mom, but it's like, if it's kind of a hard thought, it's easy just to basically block it out.
Yes.
And I was saying, like, you really can't do that with what we're walking through. And I think it's a good thing because it makes you feel it, and it just makes you have to rely on God because that is the only source of hope. But it's just different. Like, I was just like, it's different with you because even if I try to compartmentalize, I think to an extent it can be healthy because that also allows you sometimes to hold joy more with your grief. But then you still have to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
It does drive me nuts when people say, "How's your dad?" I'm like, fine. I know their intentions are so well-meaning.
I know.
But there's so many other questions to ask. I would so much rather people just say, I've been thinking about you and your dad and praying for you guys. Like, I've actually made a whole Instagram post about that after you got diagnosed, because I remember we were at the Aikens Christmas party and so many people were asking Mom that, and it's open-ended questions.
Yeah.
I really appreciate people acknowledging it and saying, I'm praying for your family. We care so much. Anybody who says anything, I know that it's from a heart posture of caring. I know that. It doesn't make me angry at them, but it's really hard when people come and ask open-ended questions, especially if you're at a party or something with a bunch of people and you're like, when it's open-ended, then I'm really having to like get into something, and it's just terrible.
Well, and then sometimes, and this is true in life, with life in general, the how you doing question, most of the time we meet it with good, fine, doing great, okay, when most of the time it's not good or fine or okay.
Yeah.
But does anybody really want to know the real answer?
Right.
You know, I think when you feel it with somebody, I think what I want, what most people want when they're in situations like mine, is just like, I know my friends are with me.
Yeah.
Like, I see you, I'm with you. And so many times we humans want to have a fix for everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're just not fixes.
Yeah.
But we want to do that. And this is not a criticism, because I think it's, I've had people tell me that they know I'm going to be healed.
Same.
And that comes from a very, very good place. But usually that kind of talk is because they don't want to feel something themselves.
Yeah.
Like, life is tragic, and we can't answer the why.
Yeah.
All the time. ALS is what I'm learning is it's a very lonely disease, because like you said, you're kind of given this diagnosis, and along with it is sort of the, by the way, there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
Like, pack your bags, get your stuff ready, prepare. And that's just a hard place to be.
Yeah.
And I love to fix things.
Yeah.
And make them better. And this is one outside at this point of a miracle from God. Um, there's no hope medically.
Yeah.
And, the best hope is, Lord, and my prayers are lengthen my days.
Yeah.
I think he wants me to bring that to him.
Yeah.
And maybe that's 20 years it's happened. But it's a day-to-day thing where every day I wake up and some days I think I'm going to feel stronger today. And then I go to do my routines, whether it's brushing my teeth or putting my clothes on, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't feel stronger today.
Yeah.
Maybe I just don't. Help me not to feel weaker today.
Yeah.
Your tears do make me feel seen. And sometimes you just need people to be there with you in it and not have the answers, because there aren't any really good answers. And I believe God could heal me tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
And I know we're going to get to miracles, aren't we?
Yes.
Because that's the name of the podcast.
Yes.
But you ask how maybe.
One thing I asked, I have several questions.
Yeah.
One thing I asked, and you can answer this first, is just like where you're finding hope these days. Like, what are things in life that bring you hope? Obviously, Jesus and eternity is the hope. But are there things outside of that you're like?
There are a lot of things that bring me joy, but when you say the word hope, I think the only place that I can find my hope is in Jesus and the gospel and eternity.
Yeah, I feel that too.
But joy, I find joy in a lot of things that I'm reading a book called Living Life Backwards, and it's about Ecclesiastes, and it's about how death teaches us to live life, and we all have, death is coming for all of us, and only when we live in the reality that we know that's coming do we know how to live. And it does teach you how to just appreciate some of the little things in life that you so many times take for granted.
Yeah.
Sometimes I sit around, I just watch your kids playing, and it brings me a different kind of joy than it used to, because now I look at it and go, I might not get to watch this for very long.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad.
Yeah.
But it also brings me joy. I'm a big believer that the price of joy is pain.
Yeah.
And it's a miracle how those two things go hand in hand, but it is true. And I've learned to see that, and I've learned to appreciate the brevity of life in a way, even spending time doing the things that are most important, like with your mom and with y'all. Those are little bitty miracles in themselves. Where it's just a reminder from the Lord that, like, this is what really matters.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that we spend our life chasing and striving for are just not that important.
Yeah.
So there's blessings in it. I don't know if hope's the answer, but I find these places of joy that I've never been able to find before, and that's one of the miracles. And it's weird to say this, but in some ways it's a gift. I wouldn't want it. It's not the gift that I want, but I try to look on the bright side of things, that there are gifts in it, and some of it's God showing me things that I haven't seen before.
Yeah. I think actually when I prepared for this, the question I wrote down was, where are you finding joy? But in the midst of my blubbering, it turned into hope.
It turned into hope. That's okay. You're
both
pregnant.
Were good answers. Yeah, and there's
you
that
have an
too.
Excuse.
So, I don't know if I told you this, pregnancy brain, but I was going to name this podcast Miracles in the Meantime.
Okay.
Because that was my name for years for this, because I wanted it to be miracle stories, but I also didn't want it to just be a healing podcast, because like when God put this on my heart, I was like, a lot of people are going to listen who aren't going to see healing. They're not going to see the miracle of healing that they're asking for. And then when he brought it back up, and I felt really convicted that I hadn't done it for like 4 years since he put it on my heart, I I
And Davey told me he didn't want to be the guy that
that
stands in the
kept me from
way, kept
doing
me
it.
from doing it. He's like, I
Yeah.
don't know that I want to spend that much money on podcast equipment, but I don't want to be that guy. Like,
Yeah. Well, and
smart man.
honestly, I've said this before, but as we've gotten into the logistics of doing a podcast, I'm like, yep, this is why I put it off for this long, because this is
Right.
it's a lot of like technology, and Davey's basically my engineer. So
I know. He's done an amazing job.
I know he has. But I wanted it to be stories of seeing miracles in the meantime too. And right when I felt God convicting me about it again, it was like, and I told my small group, I need accountability to do this, because I feel like this is the first time in my life that I feel like God told me to do something and I haven't done it for years, and I feel like I'm being disobedient. It wasn't, I mean, maybe a month or two that you got diagnosed. And one of the things Alex Scott said to me, because I had told my small group about it, was it's not a coincidence that you have been, that God just brought this back to the forefront of your mind and has been convicting you about it. And now you're in this season, like he's been putting miracles on your heart for years, and now you're in a season of believing for a miracle in your own family. Um, and so it was like I had this concept of miracles in the meantime, because I wanted it to encourage other people who are seeing miracles in the meantime. But now we're in this space of like, we don't know if I agree. Me and crew pray every night for miracles and healing, but um, I don't know if that'll be our story on this side of heaven. And the question I wanted to ask you, which I'll explain kind of how the name Miracles and Grace basically means miracles in the meantime, which is a whole other story. We're going to do a podcast with Miles, and he
Mm-hmm.
knows this story, so we can talk about that on another podcast of how we got to this
I
name.
get to
But
come back.
yeah, you do. You
Okay.
can come back as often as you want.
Okay. Beautiful.
Um, but I would love to hear just things, you touched on this a little bit, but any stories or things that you've seen in the meantime since your diagnosis that you'd be like, that feels miraculous to me, or that brought me awe and wonder that I'm getting to be a part of this, you know?
Mm-hmm. So you know me. I looked up the definition of miracle before I
Shocker.
came.
The fact that we're
Shocker.
starting with this and finances at the beginning is very on brand.
Yeah, I might butcher this, but like Webster's, it's basically said, things that happen that can't be attributable to science or natural law, and therefore must be of a supernatural power or
You know,
divine power.
mom read the definition on her
She did?
podcast too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I got pretty close to what Webster says.
Yeah, you did.
And so, I think so many times we think about miracles in the sense of like the miracles in the Bible, water into wine, all that. But if it's, I think the miracle that I'm not in a deep, deep state of depression
Yeah.
is a miracle, because, like, I think that can only come from God. I if I didn't have, like, if I didn't have my faith, why would I not just want to cash in my chips and
Yeah.
like have no hope? So I think the way that and I'm still like, I'm mixed with sadness and joy and fear, all the stuff all the time, but he truly has given me a lot more of a peace than I would have guessed. If you'd have told me 5 years ago, this is where you're going to be, I couldn't have imagined having any peace at all.
Yeah.
That to me is a little miracle in
Totally.
itself. And I even think, I was thinking about it on the way over here, you ride down the road and you look at creation. Like, that's a miracle. Like, I get to see a miracle every single day, because I don't think you can attribute creation to just some random act of boom or
Yeah.
evolution
Or the universe.
Yeah, I'm like, no, that's like, I think
So
we
intricate. Yeah, that's so good. I also was thinking, Michael's going to come on the podcast.
Great.
And I was thinking, like, not that you being diagnosed with ALS is what led him to start walking with Jesus, but I do feel like just our life circumstances led his heart to be soft. And he has had the coolest, most radical encounter with Jesus, and is like tight with Jesus now and reading his Bible every morning and just on fire for the Lord. And I would consider, not in a condescending way, but I would say that that's miraculous.
Yeah, I would too.
The fact that God could use something so heartbreaking that on paper should turn someone away from him and make you say, you're unfair, you're not kind, you're not just. And it's done the opposite and drawn your own son into him.
Yes.
Like, that is miraculous, you know?
And if my situation contributed to that, I'll take it.
Yeah, totally.
Every day.
Yep.
All day.
Davey always says that about his mom passing, because her passing was really what softened his dad's heart to come to know the Lord. And he's like, it was traumatic and horrible how it happened, and so heartbreaking and sad that she's not here with us, but he's like, I get to see her again, and I get to see my dad again in eternity whenever he dies. And he's like, if that's what it took for me to get to spend eternity with my dad, then it was worth it to lose my mom the way that we did and the timing that we did, no matter how hard it was.
That's a different set of eyes to be able to look through. And that being able to look through that set of eyes is a miracle in itself.
Yes.
Like, that is from God. That's supernatural.
Yeah.
It's from God, and you can't explain that in the textbooks.
Yeah. I think something, I've said this before on here, but something that I've been really grateful for that you and Mom did, or that you and Mom contributed to, is I feel like I had such a solid foundation of who I believed God to be before this happened. Like, in my heart of hearts, I believe that he's kind and he is just and he's faithful and he's all these things, all these good things, only good things. And so when this happened, it was such a foundational truth that I believe that it didn't shake that truth. Whereas I think if you are questioning God's character and then something hard comes your way, it's really easy. Do you hear me say, I have been angry. I've been like, why? I don't understand it. I've grappled and wrestled. It's not like I've just taken it and said, awesome, God, thanks. You're the best. Right. But I know that my understanding is limited and his is endless, and he knows everything, is taking all of it into consideration and is doing what is for our good. And I trust that in whatever way, this is for our good, even though it doesn't feel like it.
It's really hard for us to have an eternal perspective.
Yeah. As
humans on this earth, like, it's really hard to see, like, his ways are not our ways. And I don't care. As long as we're human and have flesh, we battle our flesh and we don't totally understand his ways. But, when he says he set eternity in the hearts of men deep down, like, we have that set in the deepest part of who we are, but it's so easy to lose sight of it.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to think that this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And we've always heard that term, this is not my home. Sang songs about it. And yeah, that's true. But what I've been given is a chance to a little more clearly look through that lens. Like, this is not my home. And yes, we don't like the way the world is. And so many questions that we have as to the why.
Yeah.
And what's fair and what's not fair and what we think ought to be fair. But that's because it's hard for us to look through that eternal kingdom lens.
Yeah, it's so true. I feel like going through this has really centered me to that and made that be my perspective. And a couple of things I want to say. One is I've loved watching and been so proud of how you have been so quick and excited about opportunities where you get to share your story in a way that can have kingdom impact. Because I think I've just been reminded through this that the purpose of any pain we go through, whether it's like a shameful chapter of your life or it's a heartbreaking diagnosis, like, the purpose of all of it is to bring God glory. It's not to hide it and not talk about it. It's to talk about it and bring God glory, and hopefully people come to know him through the way that we're doing this and walking this journey, and that it's honoring to him. But, it's hard because it has been so hard, and there's so many different personalities in our family that I think different people navigate it differently, and some are more private than others. And I tend to be less private because I'm like, I just want to squeeze every single ounce of eternal purpose that can come
Mm-hmm.
from this. And I've seen you do that, and just the things that you've said yes to with doing that documentary with Auburn Community Church. Um, and then y'all are speaking at a big prayer breakfast next month for Northwestern Mutual, which is your company. And um, I think a lot of times when people have a diagnosis like this, it's easy to go internal and to just spin right here of,
Yes, it is
and
easy.
I'm sure, yeah, you probably struggle with that too. But I've been so proud of the way that you've been very intentional to choose to shift your focus outward of like, how can God use me and use this for others versus just sitting and spinning all the time and woe is me, how could this be my life? Like, how can my life
Yeah.
have impact, you know?
Well, thank you for saying that. I think the transformation for me, and this hit me really early on. My natural tendency is to want to control what's next, and even with the diagnosis, I did feel very clearly that, like, I believe Romans 8:28, that all things work together for good. I don't understand it. I believe it most of the time because it's easy to not believe that. Like, how could this happen?
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, okay, if you have a purpose for this, Lisa Harper told me that he might have chosen us for this, and I didn't know what that meant, and still not sure. But if there's a purpose, God, you show me, and don't let me try to control and dictate what it is,
Yeah.
because the thought runs through your mind, and ran through my mind, like, oh my gosh, I could do so much for ALS.
Mm-hmm.
I could go out and start championing a cure for ALS, which a lot of people are doing and doing well, and I admire them and I applaud them, and I hope that they succeed and this process gets sped up. I just never felt that was my place. I just felt like I have to try to walk this walk well.
Mm-hmm.
Like our pastor Miles says, like, this coming for everybody. And this last stage of discipleship of what it means to give your death away, and that sounds so horrible, but it's really not, because none of us are immune to that. It's going
Yeah.
to come at different times in different ways. None of us know when. And
Mm-hmm.
even though, our plans may not work out like we want them to, I'm learning to trust. I say learning, like, fully trust him in that.
Yeah.
That's been a miracle too.
Yeah.
That for me, I'm an Enneagram 8. You know that. I like to be in control. It's probably been a struggle for my whole life, but he's continuously showed me that I'm not, and that it's good that I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I was so funny right now. I'm in season 4 of The Chosen. But when you asked me a minute ago about, we're talking about Davy's mom, there's a scene in The Chosen where Jesus is talking to little James. Have you ever seen it?
I've seen The Chosen. I don't know if I've seen this episode. We're behind.
Okay, so little James, I'll probably butcher this, but if you're listening to this and you haven't watched this scene, you can Google it. Little James, why haven't you healed me? But he comes to Jesus, and little James is crippled and lame. I don't know what his health problems were, but he came to Jesus and said, I have a question. Like, you told us that we would be able to heal people in your name, that we will heal many people. And he said, yes. He said, okay, but I'm confused. Like, why haven't you healed me?
I have seen this.
And of course, this is not from the Bible, but this is one of the creative liberties in the Chosen that I think was fantastic.
Yeah.
He looked at him and said, there's already dozens of people that can tell that story. There's going to be hundreds more and thousands more. But think about the story that you'll have to tell, that you trusted me even with your affliction. Like, you didn't have to be healed to trust me. And he told him, he said, James, I trust you. And so it was really a beautiful scene because, to my knowledge, little James never got healed of his affliction, but he told him, he's like, you'll be healed one day. Like, one day you'll leap like a deer. And because that's what Isaiah said, what it's going to be like. And so I actually think about that a lot because I go, well, maybe God can use me more with my condition than without it.
Yeah.
And I actually believe he can. I don't know what he will do. But I believe he can. And
Yeah.
I believe he will.
Yeah. That's so good. I do remember that scene now.
Yeah,
it's such a sobering thing to think about.
Well, it's part of the mystery that we're not, I think, not intended to understand. Like the things, at least in that show, you could feel the actor Jesus' frustration over his disciples not getting it. He would tell them things over and over, and he's like, they don't get it. But he would tell them, one day you'll get it.
Yeah.
Like, you'll see this one day. Why? Your questions of why. And so I kind of hang on to that. Like, I don't know that I'm supposed to have all the answers today.
Yeah.
In fact, when we did our little video where all y'all asked me questions, and one of the questions I got was, what 10 questions will you ask God or ask Jesus when you meet him? And I thought, gosh, there's 1,000 today, but I think when I meet him, I won't have any more questions.
Yeah.
I think things become clear.
Yeah.
But it's living in the muddy that's just hard as humans.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, my friend Jill said this, is don't try to make the mysteries of God known, and don't try to make the known things of God a mystery. And I think there's so many things that we wrestle with, like, that are gray areas or that we don't have answers to. And it's like some things are just a mystery because if they weren't, you wouldn't have to have faith and trust God. And at the same time, God makes some things crystal clear, and we try to make them gray or skirt around them. And I just think that's such a great quote that addresses both sides.
I know.
The unknowns and the known things. Let the unknowns be unknown, and let the...
But we so want certainty.
Yeah.
And I love the quote. I heard it. I don't know who said it, but he gives us enough clarity to take the next step, but not enough certainty to eliminate the need for faith.
Yeah.
But we want certainty.
Yeah.
I think it's part of us feeling secure.
Yeah.
And it's humbling when you know you don't have it.
Yeah, totally. Well, I know that something that we talked about that I want to hear is, this is a Miracles podcast, and I asked you if you have a story of a time that you have witnessed a miracle or something miraculous. Is there anything that comes to mind that you want to share?
I have secondhand witnessed a lot of miracles.
Yeah.
Whether it's like people I've met in Africa who have stories of literally never heard of Jesus and saw him in a dream, came to Christ through a dream, and it's pretty supernatural.
Yeah.
I know people who have been healed beyond what medical science says is possible.
Yeah.
For me personally, like, I've never had eyes on a person who's I saw a video clip of a person's arm who grew back in front of your eyes, but I think it could have been AI. You never know what.
Yeah.
But so for me, I think more and more, like, my miracles are when you were born and when your siblings were born, and I got to witness that. To me, that was a miracle.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I just told your mom, I'm like, this is a miracle.
Yeah.
Because I think it's from God, it's of God, and we can't really, I can't really explain it.
Yeah.
I cried my eyes out every time I saw one of y'all born.
Yeah.
It was just so
mind blowing.
Mind-blowing.
Yes, I agree.
When like, I don't have any of these just amazing examples of how I grew a finger back when it got cut off or anything like that. I might have one day if I'm the first person that's healed of ALS, because at this point it would take a miracle.
Yeah.
I know that. But even little bitty things, like when we first felt called to adopt, so out of the norm and so out of my comfort zone, and then just me seeing the little signs and hearing from God. I could pick up the Bible and randomly, this happens to me today, and randomly turn to something, and then how it connects to what's going on in my life. I'm like, oh wow, that is a tiny miracle in itself, because I can't explain it.
Yep, totally. Honestly, I love that that's your answer, because that is the heart of this podcast, is for it to not, like, and that's where we're at in life. The heart of the podcast is to highlight the miracles that are happening in the meantime, and viewing things. Mom was talking about the difference in the definition of luck and a miracle. And it was so good. If you haven't listened to that episode, you either should if it's out or should when it comes out. But choosing to view things that some people might say as luck is miracles. Like we were talking about the fact that 10 seats opened up on a flight to Uganda on our first trip after our flight got canceled. Some people would view that as luck, but what if we hadn't gone in that timing? What if didn't get to go till 2 years later? Would Josie even be alive? Would loved one exist? Like, when you see those things that are luck, but then see all that God does through those what some people would choose to believe is happenstance, it's hard to view it as luck. It's like, that was miraculous, and God used it in such a mighty way. And so I actually love the answer that you gave, because it's just such a perfect example of a miracle in the meantime, and God at work in the day-to-day. And
if the definition of a miracle is something that can't be explained by science or nature, that has to be divine intervention or supernatural, I've seen a lot of them, and I see them every day when I look out the window and just hear the birds chirping. And I know that sounds so corny, but like, I think the whole thing is a miracle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, how we came into being.
Yeah.
Explain that one out of the textbook if you can. It's a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. I would love to hear your favorite miracle story in the Bible as well.
Well, okay, so you gave me a heads up advance on that one, and I will say the first thing that came to my mind was Cana, the wedding, because it was his first one.
Where Jesus turned water into wine.
Jesus turned water into wine, and he did it just to show his glory, and it wasn't somebody getting healed. It was his first, and it wasn't his time yet, so he didn't want anybody to know. And then I was watching the Lazarus one, and what struck me.
Can we pause on the one and at the wedding first? A couple things, because I was reading about this recently. One thing that I loved that I was reading is that Jesus was always welcome at weddings. It was like, if something fun is happening, Jesus was welcome there. And I just love that, because it was like, Jesus was fun. People wanted him around at their fun events, which I think just goes against a lot of cultural perceptions of Christianity, of Jesus being like rigid and not fun.
But he was also the most lonely, sad human that ever lived, like what he had to live through. So there's another picture of Jesus that he didn't have that side of him. I'm like, no. Like, he was a man of sorrows too.
Yeah.
So he was human.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
He was fully God and fully man, another miracle that we can't understand.
Yeah.
But I was watching literally last night, the Lazarus healing, which I think was his last public sign. And in the movie, or in the show, Lazarus said, why me? Why'd you choose me? And he said, it wasn't about who, but about when. Meaning, no offense, Lazarus, but this is not about you. This is about God and his glory. And I look back and I think every miracle, as much as we probably don't want to hear this, every miracle he performed, I think, was more about the glory of God and showing people the glory of God than it was about this little miracle or that little miracle.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I've thought about it, and I think the resurrection is my favorite miracle.
That's a great answer.
I mean, your favorite. I mean, I love all the stories, and they're all great. The centurion's son, where he didn't even have to see him, he just spoke it, is awesome. But I mean, obviously the resurrection, because our whole faith depends on that. If that didn't happen, it's not true. Our faith is no better than anyone else's. And if it's true, which I believe it to be true, and there's a lot of evidence outside the Bible that it was true, I think that's where everybody has to wrestle with that. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
Because if somehow we could be good enough to earn our way into heaven, if there was another way, then that wouldn't have had to happen.
Yeah.
So if that really happened, and he claimed to be God, and this is who I am, that's what everybody who hears the story has to, at some level, wrestle with in their minds. Like, what am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
Because I'm a logical thinker going, well, okay, you can choose not to believe that, but then you're back to there's some other way.
Yeah.
And if there's some other way, then that didn't have to happen, which is one of the most horrible things in history, the crucifixion. So anyway, that's why it's my favorite.
I don't think you can top that one. That's definitely like the pinnacle of the miracles because it changed everything.
Changed everything. It's the single most important event in human history.
It's so good. I would also just like to dedicate a few minutes just because I feel like you are so wise. I sent you this.
The older I get, maybe the wiser I get, the more I realize I don't have wisdom, but I'll give it a shot.
Anything that comes to mind when you think of just great advice that either you've been given or just great advice that you would want to pass along, like, are there 3 things that you would say are great advice that you would want to share? It can be tiny or
it can be
life-changing.
All right, I'll start with one. This is more from a business perspective and
Okay.
career and life perspective. It's not just business, but I actually, when I speak, I talk about this one a lot. I remember 35 years ago, I was in one of these conferences that was like a motivational conference, and Lou Holtz spoke, and he said something that really impacted me. He said, when you walk into a room, into a setting, and you meet someone, a sales setting, a business setting, they're asking themselves 3 questions. They're not going to ask you out loud. But what they're really asking is, do you care about me? Can I trust you? And are you competent? And I remember hearing that and believing it to be true. I'm like, okay, that made an impact on my career, because I'm like, that's what I want to work on. You can't work on trust. I always tell y'all, don't say trust me or honestly, because it implies that what you said before wasn't true.
Yeah.
Trust is built over time, and obviously caring about people is not. It's one of those other things you go, well, I can't say, hey, listen, I promise you, I care about you.
Right.
But competency was one I thought I can work on that.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of, and now that I'm handing off clients to other ones of my partners, sometimes they'll ask, hey, what have you liked about working with Mike for 30 years or 20 years or however long it's been? And I'm sitting there listening, thinking that I'm going to hear, oh, he's so competent. Like he's the most competent financial advisor. All the times that's been asked, I haven't heard that once. What I hear is that they trust me. And so that meant a lot to me, and I think it takes you in not just business, but every area of life.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Which I guess that would be another one. The truth is sometimes really, really hard to tell. But even if it's hard, and even if it hurts, I think it's always the best way to go.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we have a problem with that in our culture. And not everybody else, me too. We sometimes don't want to really tell the truth. And one of my best friends, Jeff Schulte, asked me one time, he said, how do you know that I love you? And I said, because you always tell me the truth. And and it might not be what I want to hear, but he tells me the truth.
Yeah.
Does that count as two?
No, I think that it could if you wanted to, but I'm like, keep going. Give me two more.
I will go in the negative on this one. Advice that I don't like, that I hear people say all the time, is follow your heart.
It's good.
It's a one that I've preached that to y'all. Like, I know the world tells you that, but don't do that. That's exactly the opposite of what the Bible tells us to do, because at the core, our hearts are not good.
You've also always said something that I love that you've said for a long time, I think especially into my older years, is, and especially the last 5-6 years, is just that a time is coming where you have to take a stand for what's true and what's right. Like, we're phasing out, not that there's ever really been a time for this, but if there was ever a time where this is not an option, like, just going with the flow and what the world says is truth is not an option for believers. Like, you've just really encouraged me, and I've heard your voice in my ear so many times when people are saying things that are so contrary to what the Bible says, but they're culturally accepted. You have the choice of either standing in agreement, staying silent, or being honest and saying, that's not what I believe to be true. And when you stand up for truth, people hate it, and you're not going to be met with kindness.
Mm-hmm.
You will sometimes by people who agree with you, but it's promised so many times in Scripture that we are not going to be liked, that people are going to hate us, that people are going to come for us, that we're going to be persecuted. And we do everything we can to skirt around that, and we just dilute what we believe is truth and go with what culture says.
I think the hard part for me and humans is, how do we speak the truth in love?
Yeah, totally.
And yes, I do think we're at a place where we get so numbed, so desensitized to truth, because at every angle, we're getting lies.
Yeah.
And I think, I will go spiritual on you here. Like, I think the enemy's, his greatest tool is as a deceiver and a liar. It's not that you see him with a pitchfork and the red horns. It's he disguises himself as an angel of light, and discernment is something that our pastor gave a great sermon on it not too long ago. How do you get discernment? Well, you first read the Bible, right? And that's your ultimate source of truth.
Yeah.
In a world where truth seems so whatever you want it to be. You listen to wise counsel, and you listen to the Holy Spirit. And then listen to the Holy Spirit is tricky, because you have to discern the voice of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Because it's got to match with what Scripture says.
Yeah.
Because if that feeling or that spirit is contradicting what you know to be true, this is why I think it's so important to study the Bible.
Yeah.
Books are great.
Podcasts are great.
Podcasts are great. I think about Michael. Like, I watch it. I'm watching it happen before my eyes. He's reading the Bible with a new set of eyes.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, sometimes reading the Bible's hard anyway, because you go, I don't understand that. And that's okay. But I think God he gives you what you need in understanding when you need it. So I think being able to discern truth is a big thing today and going forward, I think, for everybody, because it's so easy it's the slippery slope. Yeah. Right.
I also love what you said about truth and love, because anytime that I've ever said my piece to say my piece or to prove a point, I feel so crummy afterwards. Yeah. Because I just feel gross and convicted, because that's not how we're supposed to be. It's not to, number one, that's not what we're supposed to do. It's not to be right and to say your piece.
No, I'm with you. I know what you mean.
But when I say something, it's truly out of the conviction of my heart, because I believe wholeheartedly that it is what is best for someone else. It's such a different experience, and I think people receive it differently. Yes. And you can tell when someone's saying something to you, because they're burdened by it and they care about it, versus like And also, no one receives it when it's not in love. No
Mm-mm.
one is ever going to receive something if they think differently than you if it's not said in love.
Yeah, but so many times we want to say things in love with the goal of making everybody feel good at the end of the conversation. That's not the way it works.
Yeah.
Like if that's our goal, like that's never what we were, I think, told is the outcome. But you're right. Like how we speak it and what we speak and truth and love is important.
And
And
our
I,
heart
I
in saying it.
fail at that all the time.
I
I
think
would
we all
so
do.
love to be better at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have one closing piece of advice for us?
Well, first I'll say I'm so proud of you. Like
Thank you.
just being here with you and watching you do this, and thinking about the little girl that drew pictures on my car. Came home from work one day. I had a new, wasn't new, it was used, was new to me, Toyota Avalon. And Grace was, you were about maybe 3 or 4 years old. And I walked in, you said, Daddy, Daddy, come here. I want to show you the picture I drew for you. And I was so excited to see the picture that you drew for me. And you led me out the back to the car. And you drew with a rock this big, just scratch stuff all over my car. And I couldn't get mad at you because you thought what you were doing was pleasing. And I'd never told you, don't take a rock and scratch on the car. Not the place to draw. But you were so genuinely so excited. You had no regret, no remorse. It's like, I leading you by the hand, come look, come look. And when you showed it to me, it was one of those moments I thought, I could get really mad right now. Or I did have a talk with you like, honey, that's beautiful, but that's not the place we draw pictures. So I'm just so proud of you to
Thank you.
be sitting here with you and watching you do this. And I can see the passion in your eyes and the gifts that you have and how you're using them. And
Thank you.
it just warms my heart.
Thanks, Daddy.
One piece of advice. Well, it's probably just in this season, it's a lesson that I'm learning and I haven't mastered it, but I'm getting a lot better at it. Is that if we believe what we say we believe as Christians, we can trust Him in His promises.
Yeah.
And His promises are not always going to look like what we want them to look like. And we can't get discouraged when things don't go our way. But I do believe more and more that His plans are perfect in a fallen world. And our stories are really just a part of His bigger story, and that we're called to trust in it. And I'd be lying if I said I'm perfect at that all the time, because I still go back to this, I want to control. And but there's freedom in that trust that I'm learning, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Thanks for sharing and for coming on and talking to me.
This is my pleasure. I loved it.
Let's do it again soon.